The Redmi Note 8 Pro has just been released, although it doesn't go on sale for another couple of days in mainland China, and the rest of the world is going to have to wait at least a good few weeks before they can buy it. Let's put it up against the competition: the Honor 9X, the Redmi K20, and the Realme XT. They've all got Full HD displays, but we'll have to give the points to the Realme XT and the Redmi K20 here. They've got OLED screens, and in my book, that's a tick for them. For me, OLED screens do look better and provide a better viewing experience. And we'll get onto the prices in a second, because actually the retail prices here in China are really similar, and it makes the decision way more difficult about which one you want to buy. My personal experience, having used the Honor 9X, that is a much bigger device than the other devices will be. And of course, there's no notch on that phone, so you get a full screen experience for gaming. The Redmi Note 8 Pro uses a new MediaTek chipset, the G90T. MediaTek say they have made this one with gaming in mind. It's a 12 nanometer chipset. Redmi themselves have put this up against the 712, the 710 from Snapdragon, and the Kirin 810 processor that's used in the Honor 9X. So the Redmi Note 8 Pro beat Snapdragon 710 and 712 devices on Antutu. It was beaten by the Kirin 810 though. The Snapdragon 730 sits just under the Kirin 810 processor. At least that's my experience when I've done speed tests with a few different phones using those processors. Day-to-day usage, you won't see much difference between them, but certainly that MediaTek chipset for the price is pretty powerful. In the camera department, there are two phones that stand out in this list, both the Redmi Note 8 Pro and the Realme XT. Also, the Honor 9X stands out for me a little bit because in terms of the cameras, it just doesn't offer as many cameras as the other phones. The Redmi K20 gives you that classic triple camera setup, and it uses a 48 megapixel sensor. The cameras on that phone are decent, not the best, but it's a really good setup for the price. The brand new 64 megapixel sensor from Samsung used in both the Redmi Note 8 Pro and the Realme XT is going to give you really clear images. I'll give the points to both the Redmi Note 8 Pro and the Realme XT on this one, although the Redmi K20 is going to give you a similar experience. And the 9X, it just has a main camera with a depth sensor. It's going to get beaten by the other phones. The Honor 9X does give really great images out of that main sensor. And if you don't think you need a wide angle, then the other phones aren't that much ahead. Video is an area where the 9X struggles as well, because you can only record in Full HD 1080p. For most people, most of the time, that's all you're going to want. On the spec sheet, it does get beaten by all the other phones. The other phones all support 4K video recording and give you better slow-mo as well. In my experience using the phone, the Redmi K20 has really decent video and good image stabilization, and that can be said for the Honor 9X too, but it doesn't have 4K. Both the Note 8 Pro and the Realme XT aren't available to buy yet in China, so I'm gonna have to wait to do video tests on those. It should also be said we don't know how the MediaTek chipset handles video. The Snapdragon 730 and 712, we know what they're like. They're very decent, but I just don't know what the MediaTek chipset is like for video and image stabilization. The selfie cameras are all going to be very similar, and it will actually come down to software more than the hardware. I guess I'll give some points to the Honor 9X and the Redmi K20 as they both have pop-up cameras, and I personally prefer bezel-less displays. It's a tie across the board in the sound department. All of them just have mono speakers, and they all contain a headphone jack. That's good. Because the 9X and the K20 have pop-up cameras, face unlocking is a little bit more difficult. So if you want really fast face unlocking, go for the Realme XT or the Note 8 Pro. Between the Honor 9X and the Redmi Note 8 Pro, I'll go for the Honor 9X because it has a fingerprint sensor on the side, and I was really surprised when I used that phone. It is super quick and super convenient. It's a really great position. The unlocking method I personally like the least is the one on the back. and the Note 8 Pro has that. Battery strength and charging, it looks like the Redmi Note 8 Pro just edges it here. It has the biggest battery by a long way, but that doesn't mean it has the best battery life. That MediaTek chipset is not as efficient as the other chipsets. They are all more or less the same, although the 9X only has 10 watt charging, and that is a little bit slow when you're comparing it to the others at around 18 watt or 20 watt. The 4 plus 64 gigabyte variant of the Redmi Note 8 Pro is 1399 RMB, but interestingly, the Honor 9X for the same specifications is exactly the same price. The Honor 9X also offers a 6 plus 64 variant, which is going to be really popular. It's only a little bit more expensive at 1599. And here's the thing, the Redmi K20. The Redmi K20 in mainland China has been heavily discounted. You can now get a 6 plus 64 variant for 1600 RMB. However, I'm aware that in different markets, prices are different, and if it is more expensive, it just takes that phone out of the competition. As for the Realme XT, price is yet unknown. It has not been released in the market, but I would fully expect it to be similar or exactly the same price as the Redmi Note 8 Pro. They were released around the same time, both with quad cameras and that 64 megapixel sensor. Very similar specs and exactly the same market. Okay, I hope you found that useful until I can get my hands on a phone when these phones actually go on sale. I hope comparing the specs of them makes things a little bit clearer for you. Anyway, that's it for now, but I will see you in the next one.